Welcome to One Tired Teacher, episode 54. Happy birthday, One Tired Teacher. That's right. It has been 1 year of podcasting on One Tired Teacher. I'm so excited, woo, that we have just officially turned one, and I am so happy to be speaking to teachers from all around the globe. You have made a huge impact on me, and I hope there's something that has inspired or motivated or maybe even transformed something that you're doing in your classroom. Let's look back on some of the ups and downs of One Tired Teacher. I hope you'll stick around.
Welcome to One Tired Teacher. And even though she may need a nap, this teacher is ready to wake up and speak her truth about the trials and treasures of teaching. Here she is, wide awake. Wait, she's not asleep right now, is she? She is awake, right? Okay. From Trina Debery Teaching and Learning, your host, Trina Debery.
Hey, so I am excited to have officially hit the 1 year mark. It's really crazy, isn't it? I mean, I remember when I first started this podcast and I had taken a step outside of education for a while. I had left the classroom. I left the classroom in, I think it was 2000, either 15 or 16. What is this, 2019? I know, I've got to figure out what the year is. It's been at least 4 years. Maybe this is the 5th year, which is really quite crazy to think about. I didn't leave education. I just moved from a second grade teacher to the student support specialist, which was like a job where I was training to be an administrator, which is crazy to think about because I'm not sure I have the desire for that. Like, especially now, it'd really have to be some kind of an exceptional learning environment for me to even consider that. But then I changed that and I was a media specialist for a year and I went back to teaching classes. I had kindergarten through 5th grade and that was a crazy experience. And it gave me a whole new appreciation for special area teachers and the challenges that they face. And it made me feel like a brand new teacher again. It was insane. And that was in year, I had been in the system for like 17, 18 years at that point. Yeah, maybe longer than that, like 19 years. So it was really crazy. And then I took a massive risk and I quit. I totally quit and I left and I focused on creating materials and resources for teachers. I started One Tired Teacher, which was one of the best things that I did in that time frame. And I did several other things like entrepreneurial types of things. And it was exciting and it was fulfilling and happy and I love it. And then I realized, I need a little bit more stability and I'm missing my connection with kids and I'm really missing my connection with teachers. I found a connection speaking to you all and I love when people write me and they email me and they message me and especially when you rate the show and you're excited about it and it means something to you, like that means a lot to me and that's really special to me. So I appreciate that so much. But I miss being in the trenches with teachers. So I jumped back into education in the exact same district where I left. And, a lot has changed and I have found that it hasn't changed for the better, unfortunately. So that leaves me very tired and feeling quite exhausted sometimes. But there's been moments that still inspire me and motivate me to want to keep reaching children and reaching learners and speaking up for teachers, with teachers, and with other people that are wanting to create environments where children love to learn. And I think that's the thing that still fuels me. I feel really passionately about that. I spend a lot of time reading, researching, listening to other podcasts, and really understanding the avenues that we're taking to teach kids to learn to read and the focusing of specific standards, child development, mindset, mental health, mental health exercises, focusing on that for children and how important that is and how we have such a lack of that in our schools. And I spent a lot of time with behavior and thinking about my philosophy on classroom management and behavior and management, because now I'm back doing a role that I did that was more administrative at that time, and now it's really more just about discipline, which is, I'm just going to be honest, it's been super hard. Really, really hard. And seeing, the things that I see in my perspective, I have a lot to share on that too. And so I'm going to be doing that in year 2 of One Tired Teacher. We're going to focus on lots of different subjects, but one of them that I'm really going to focus in on year 2 is that behavior side of things, and that mental health aspect and mindset, and helping teachers continue to stay in the classroom or rethinking what our focus should be. And that is I really believe that kids should be falling in love with learning, and that learning can occur in so many different forms, and that we kind of have it stuck in this one way and this one size fits all and inside of the box. And I am so outside of the box that I can't even fit in the box anymore. And it's hard to try to. So we're going to be talking about some of those kind of things. I'm excited about that. I hope that you'll join me, and I do appreciate you, and I'm thankful that you've been a part of this journey. So let's talk a little bit about the ups and downs of One Tired Teacher. So this started a year ago in 2018. And I started podcasting, and the first episode was all a little bit of an introduction to One Tired Teacher. And I told you that we would be talking about the trials and treasures of teaching. And I think that we've done that. I think for the most part, I think that I've kept it pretty positive. I hope that I have. I know there's been moments that I've come on and been like, yeah! And the true moments of ranting you have not witnessed. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because I'll tell you what, sometimes it feels better to just get it off of your chest, to get it out of your system, to realize that there's other teachers out there that get you and understand you and know where you're coming from, because we're in this together. And we may have different philosophies. We may see things differently. We may not agree on everything, but we still were drawn to this probably for the same reason, and that is about children. And I think that is the thing that can still unite us, and I think that it needs to desperately. So that was One Tired Teacher, the introduction. Now, I will say one thing that I have learned for sure, that is to talk into the mic, because I was listening back. My whole idea for this episode was to give you like snippets of past episodes, which ended up being so much harder than I thought it was going to be technically, like as far as as far as software goes and things, and which I feel like an expert on GarageBand. That's what I use for my editing software, and I feel like a pro. Like I feel really good at it, but like figuring out how I was going to get a snippet from everything was like really stressing me out. And I figured it out. I got some snippets. I started putting them in the show. I was recording this, and I'm like, this sounds terrible. I have come so far in the audio quality. Hopefully you can tell. And if you were an early fan and you're still with me, oh, God bless you, because you went through some tough times. It was hard to hear. You probably had to like turn your volume up and down multiple different times during one episode, which I'm so sorry. And you probably were like, I'm going to go crazy. And every time I hit the mic, you might have wanted to just like shake me, because it makes a really loud like boom sound. I got much better at editing. So if that happened later on, I usually got rid of it. I also got better at understanding that you want to hear the real me. So if I make a mistake, I start coughing in the middle of something, that's okay. Like that's not the end of the world. I don't have to edit it to death. And that helped me continue on. So hopefully those are the things that you've grown to like and love about me, and maybe not drive you crazy, but they might, because I tend to be a rambler, which I know if you're a long time listener, and I have a focusing issue. So sometimes I interrupt myself and I don't remember where I was. And so, yeah, those are all things that I've learned. But let's look at some of the other things. So I started off with some excellent guests. And that is because I went right straight to my friends, and I'm like, I need you to be on my podcast. And I didn't just pick them because they were my friends. I picked them because I believe in what they have to say. And I believe that they are incredible educators. And I wanted to share their voice with you. And I wanted them to share their voice with the world. I think it's really important that we get to do that as teachers, because sometimes we are stifled and our voice is silenced. And it doesn't have to be, and it doesn't need to be, and I don't think it should be. It's important. We have important things to say. So I took some of those important people's voices and I shared them with the world. And I am so proud that I did. Not of me, but proud of them. I'm proud of who they are. So the second episode was One Tired Teacher Building Student Rapport. And that was with my very dear friend, Melanie Redden, who is like a sister to me. We have taught together for a long time. I helped hire her. I was with her for years. We platooned together for several years, where I taught reading and science, and she taught science. I taught science. What am I talking about? I taught science and reading. I said that. And she taught writing, social studies, and math. And it was like a beautiful partnership, in my opinion. I felt like I had the best of all worlds. And I got to really focus on two subjects that I love, especially reading. And I actually really love science too. So I don't know why I'm saying that. I feel like I know exactly what I'm talking about and what I'm doing in teaching reading from the very beginning all the way to, a student that is reading complex text. So that part was fun. And I took off my plate some of the things that I didn't necessarily love. Now I miss teaching math. I will say that. I did totally miss teaching math. But having to get everything together all the time is just a lot. And we, as elementary school teachers, we know that it's a lot. So platooning was great. It was great on one hand, but on the other hand, it was hard to have that many children that were struggling in the area of reading and being responsible for that solely. That was difficult. I will say that part was hard. But Melanie talked about building student rapport. That's one of my favorite episodes. I think it's a wealth of information. I love what she has to say about building relationships with kids and how important that is. And actually, when I was doing the snippet for that particular episode, I was like, ooh, I got to go back and listen to this whole thing, because it's just a gold mine of information about dealing with behavior. So I'm totally going back to that one and listening to that again. But that was episode 2. On episode 3 of One Tired Teacher, I talked with my very dear friend, Nicole Moss, who is an ESE resource teacher. And she's a treasure. Like, she's definitely a person that you want at your school. She's full of information, and she's like a child whisperer. She gets to those kids that are kicking and screaming and running and acting crazy, and she works magic. It's magical. And she gives a ton of good advice and insight into the world of ESC on episode 3. Don't worry, I'm not going to go one by one all through 53 episodes. So you don't have to worry about that. I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the things that I loved, people that I loved talking to, episodes that really moved me or I feel like had some real value. So in the beginning, like I said, I took my close friends and I'm like, come on, I need you on the show. And so I did that for a few episodes. And then I talked about, various mentalities for teachers. So I have a few episodes about that where I talked about the mental health or the mental well-being for teachers and how to take care of yourself and how to survive through, to get to winter break, or how you were going to survive, getting through Halloween, or what, how you needed to take care of yourself. So there were some episodes that talked about that. But I also had some episodes that I felt like I spoke to people that I didn't know. I got a chance to meet new people, like on episode 5 of One Tired Teacher, and administrator's impact on school culture. I got to speak to a teacher named Rachel, and she shared all about, she was a second grade teacher from Missouri, and she shared all about this incredible administrator that she worked for and how she had such a huge impact on the school culture. And that is I love listening to that episode, because it really goes to show you how valuable the administration can be, and how if you have a rough principal, talk about a world of difference. It's a game changer for sure. And I didn't realize to the extent at that point, That's not true. I actually did. I was already to that point where I understood what that really means. But like the office staff and this, down to like the school secretary and the registrar and the people at the front desk, all that stuff makes such a huge difference. When you're working with like kind and considerate people, and you're working with people that like value one another, it's an unbelievable environment. It makes the culture of your school. But when you are working with people that are toxic, or people that are mean or spiteful or really hard on teachers, it's difficult. So that was a fun episode for me to do. I really enjoyed that. Melanie came back on episode 8, and we talked about the power of teamwork. And I love talking to her about that, because I really feel like when you are on a team that values one another, and you are able to be who you are, your authentic self, and you don't have to do everything exactly the same. In fact, you celebrate diversity. That is the kind of team that I want to be a part of. And I honestly miss being a part of a team in my work profession right now. I don't feel like I feel really isolated a lot, and I feel like an outsider sometimes. And that part is really hard, because when I worked on my second grade team for so many years at my one school that I helped open, it was like family. They were like family to me. They meant so much to me. Like, I celebrated milestones with them, and births of children, and divorces, and just life. It was incredible. It was like I didn't even realize how special and unique it was until it's not there anymore. And I miss them. So that was a special episode. I've also talked about some really hard topics, like struggling with anxiety and ADHD. And I've talked about things like that with teachers, and those have been hard. I've talked about some subjects that I think were really interesting in the classroom. For example, episode 10, Yoga in the Classroom and the 5 Benefits. That was a really fun episode to do. I got a chance to speak to an incredible guidance. I shouldn't say that. I take that right back. She's taught me better. An incredible school counselor who her main focus is on children and their mental health. And she gave us some really great tips about growth mindset in episode 13. Larissa Bennett, and she actually went on to be the school counselor for the year in the state of Florida. So that was very exciting. That happened in the time frame of when One Tired Teacher began. So that's exciting. That, like, speaking to all of these people has been like such an incredible gift to me. Like, I really got a chance to talk to some unbelievable educators. And I think that's one of the things that I love the most. Another favorite episode of mine was episode 15 that I did with Chris Kessler about engaging students. We talked about the power of engagement, and we talked about like escape rooms and things to like really get kids motivated about learning. And I love that. I had so much fun with him. I felt like I was talking to an old friend, and that is the magic of being able to like build a relationship or connection with someone, and like it, evolving. And I think that's fun. I also had the opportunity to speak to some really incredible teachers from all over the country. Like that, I talked to a teacher, her name was Brandy, from Oklahoma City Public Schools, and we talked about integrating technology into the primary classroom. That was in episode 18, and that was like magic for me. I got my master's degree in technology and media design and education in 2011. And then I came back after I graduated. I didn't leave, but I should take that back. After I graduated, I got a grant for one-to-one iPads in my classroom. And so I used those for the next 5 years. And it was unbelievable. And so talking to Brandy about ways of integrating technology, because they were an Apple school, I like to do my interviews with other teachers. Well, at the time when I was doing, working on my podcast and working on creating materials for teachers, I was doing that full time. So I could do interviews at any time. And I prefer to do them earlier in the day because that's my best thinking and I can concentrate. But Brandy was working, so she couldn't do it till later, and she had to get her kids in bed. And it was like 8:30 at night for me. She was in a different time zone, so it was late for me. I'm on the Eastern time zone, so I was so tired. I'm like, oh gosh, how am I going to do this? I'm going to have some energy. And when she came on, I felt like I was like lit up because she excited me. She rejuvenated me with with our conversation about technology. Because you can study technology, but if you're not constantly utilizing it in the classroom and learning all the new things, you're outdated in like a year. Everything changes so quickly. And she just reminded me of like things that I'd done in my classroom that I loved and that motivated kids. And then what she was doing was just incredible. So that was like one of my favorite episodes, episode 18. I also talked about podcasting for teachers, and I had started to think about doing a course for teachers on how to podcast in your classroom, because I really think podcasting has such like incredible like possibilities in your classroom. And I ended up veering off into focusing more on podcasting for teacherpreneurs. So I kind of moved away a little bit with teachers, but that's still in the back of my mind. I'm still thinking about that, because doing this podcast for teachers has just meant so much to me. And I think there's like a lot of really cool things that could be going on with podcasts in the classroom. So I had another great experience with Jamie Sears, another unbelievable educator. She talked about building a community of teachers, and that was episode 21. That was like one of my favorites as well. I talked about like kind of an alternative way of taking your teaching skills and utilizing them and creating another career basically for yourself. Like if you were doing maybe a side business. And I talked to a teacherpreneur. I talked to her about her journey in podcasting and working remotely. And that was with Farah Henley from Miss Shipley's classroom. That was like a really fun episode. I felt like a fast friend with her. That was episode 20, and that was really fun. I learned a lot about how I like the energy of an interview, but I like the flexibility of doing a solo show. Like when I'm just speaking to you, I feel like I get to say, exactly what I want to say, and I get to do it when I want to do it and where I want to do it. And so that's a little bit different. But when I'm on an interview, like, you're working around people's schedules, and you've got to be flexible, and you're waiting. And not that I don't like that, because I do. So I really enjoy both. And I don't know how you feel. Like maybe you should let me know in the ratings and the reviews. Like, let me know who is your favorite guest, or what was your favorite solo show? Which one do you prefer? Let me know, and let me know on Facebook. So then I have loved talking about, I did a series on Makerspace and what a huge impact I think they have in a learning environment. That started in episode 23 of One Tired Teacher, 5 reasons every classroom needs a makerspace. And then I went on to talk about why teachers should be podcasting. I talked about I did a whole series on podcasting, and that was so fun, like launching a podcast launching a makerspace in episode 31, why every classroom needs a makerspace in episode 30, and then setting up your makerspace in episode 32. I kind of jumped around a little bit, it looks like, but it was still like, I still think it was fun to talk about those kinds of things. I have talked about some harder issues again, like, is college for everyone? I talked about that in episode 27 when my daughter, who was on the college track, was graduated in the top 10% of her class, had a 4.1, had an unbelievable amount of service hours. Like, she just fit the bill, but she struggled with the SATs. And so her big college dreams were diminished a bit. And it really was a very frustrating time for her. And she decided that college was not the thing for her. And like coming to grips with that has taken a little bit of time. And it's made me realize that there's so much value in learning lessons from life and allowing kids different opportunities. And that's been a huge thing that I've learned while doing One Tired Teacher. So that has been really interesting. I also had a chance to have another one of my friends, Andrea Knight from Knight or Enterprise, I think it is. I don't remember exactly how she says that, but we talk about welcoming graduating teachers, and that was in episode 26, and that was a really fun one to do. It brought back lots of memories of teaching, so that's always fun to do when you're doing a podcast with a friend. Let's see. Then I kind of, went on for a while about some other thing, like what would you do if you weren't a teacher in episode 35? Because, you gotta touch all the things. I talked about integrating play and music into literacy and learning. That was another one of my favorite episodes to do. It was so inspiring and so true and so important. And that was with Pamela Courtney. I really enjoyed that episode. That was so much fun to do. And I've talked specifically about like why back to school, like decor matters, like how important that can be for your classroom. And also how you got to remember that you don't have to be a Pinterest perfect teacher. That's another thing. And I did a whole back to school series. That was a little bit of a shift. And, that's something I learned too, is that sometimes you can take things a little too far. You kind of go on and on and on. And that's something to watch out for. So that's something that I've learned that I need to really pay attention to in year 2. I hope I do a better job with that. I did start a series on behavior starting on episode 44. In Building Rapport Part 1, and then I did a Building Rapport Part 2, and then we talked about social emotional learning and how to handle behavior issues in the classroom on episode 47. So I did that for quite a while. And then I've been like seasonal for the last couple of ones, and hopefully you've had a chance to catch up on those, and you've maybe got some really good books that you were reading for Halloween and some really good books that you had a chance to do for Thanksgiving. I will be talking a little bit about seasonal things to end this year, but I also am, and then I will be taking a break. Yes, One Tired Teacher will be taking a short break for the holidays because I podcasted for a year, which I think is unbelievable. And I was so excited to share my findings and my thoughts and my voice with you all. And I would love for you to share your voice, because that is another thing that I learned while doing this, that I want to hear from more teachers. So if you would like to be a guest on One Tired Teacher, then write me at tdebery at trinadeberyteachingandlearning.com and let me know that you would like to be on the show. I'd love to have you. I'm looking for teachers from all over the place. You don't even have to be in the United States. You can be out of the country. In fact, I don't think I've done an interview with a teacher from another country for One Tired Teacher. Now, I have another podcast, which some of you know, which is Teacherpreneurs Raise Your Hand. And I have done interviews with other teachers from out of the United States, and that has been really exciting. And so I'd love to do that in teaching. So I hope that you will let me know if you are interested, because I think we can really learn from each other. And I would love to talk to other teachers about that. So, and teachers need to hear your voice. All right. So that is a year in One Tired Teacher, all the ups and some of the downs. And if I had some down moments, it was really mainly around like making sure that you could hear the content and that the subject was relevant to you and it was interesting. I think those are the things that I'm going to work on. So I hope that you have been patient, or you'll be patient with me as I continue to grow and learn in the podcasting world and in the world of education, because there's so much that changes just from year to year. And being back in a school has really, and like I've been working one-on-one with the student in second grade, and so I've like been refining my skills, and I'm like, there's so many things that come back up that I'm like, they're still relevant, and they still matter, like, and a lot of really good things that I've learned that I have to share, and also things that I am learning now from other teachers and from other experts in the field of education. So I hope you'll continue to join me, and thank you for being a part of this journey, and happy, happy birthday to One Tired Teacher. So from this moment on, we're going to the home stretch of the holidays. And then, like I said, we'll be taking a break, and then we'll be back for the new year. So this One Tired Teacher is ready for a long winter's nap. Until next time, sweet dreams and sleep tight.